right. Hi, friends. We're back with the Make It Work Monday. It's been a little while since I've done this, but I was thinking today as I went to Asher's therapy about how we are going to be preparing for a really important appointment. So I thought I'd talk about 5 things that you can do before an IEP or an important appointment for your child with special needs. Just a quick pop in to say I did get to do my walk this morning and look at that beautiful sky. It was a little later than I had planned, but oh my goodness, it was gorgeous. Okay, so number 1, when you're preparing to meet with an IEP team or with an appointment team of doctors. So for us personally, I will share that on the 16th, 7th, we have a couple of meetings back to back. On the 16th, Asher will be going to what is called a gait lab at Nemours Hospital in Delaware. So we are in the tri-state area. We're close to Delaware, we're close to Maryland, and the closest children's hospital is Nemours. So we'll be going on the 16th, and it is a 3-hour appointment. So it's a very long appointment. They're going to watch how he walks, hence the name GAIT, how he walks with help, of course. They're going to check his tone. Oftentimes with doctors with cerebral palsy, they make measurements of the angles of his ligaments, especially focusing on his ankles and his elbows and his wrists. All of that has a measurement of what it's able to do easily, naturally, and what it can be stretched into, and then how it bounces back. So oftentimes they will go through all of that at the orthopedic doctor. That's what they do. He also sees an upper extremities specialist, but that's for another time. Anyway, he's going to be there for 3 hours. I'm going to be surrounded by people that do this for a living. That this is all they talk about, this is all they research, this is their work, their life's work. And so it is really easy to walk into a situation like that and say whatever they say to me, I have to take because they're the experts and I don't know what I'm talking about. And while we should not discount what experts say, you are the expert on your child. You are there with them day in, day out. You see their routine. You see where they struggle. You see what works for them, what doesn't work for them. You are the expert for your specific child. So go in there, breathe, count to 7 in through your nose, hold for 3, out for 8. Breathe a couple of times. Get yourself into a good place mentally, and remember that you are the expert on your child, so that you don't have to be intimidated by this group of people. It is intimidating. It is. In an IEP setting, it's the same. You're surrounded by people that this is their life's work, and you just feel like you're the only non-professional in the room, especially if you're a stay-at-home parent. It can feel like you don't really have anything to bring to the table. So just to remember that you are the expert on your specific child. You know what they need, what they succeed at and excel at, and what they really have a weakness in, and really practically how they need help around your home. Especially when you're talking about a doctor, they will be focused more on the home. Typically in an IEP setting, it's how can we accommodate this child so that they can succeed at school. At a doctor, it's how can we accommodate this child so that they can succeed at life in general. So a lot of times an IEP cannot hit on things that only affect the home life, even at the 3 to 5 age. I've learned because I've asked different questions. There was one thing. So there are sometimes small things and sometimes big things, but one thing that kind of makes me sad for Asher is that he is never really able to experience hot liquids. He cannot hold a cup and maneuver it correctly to get the right amount of liquid into his mouth. And when you have a sippy cup, you're used to drinking quickly. And you can't drink a hot liquid quickly. You have to drink it a certain way. And so I spoke to his occupational therapist about that. I spoke to his liaison, who is like a special education teacher, but she's the liaison between the therapists and the school where he attends. And she basically, for Asher, so there are different levels of interaction, but she's the person that she checks on him once a month. She makes sure he's getting the therapies and what he needs in order to succeed as a human, but also to succeed in a school setting. So anyway, she had said, nope, you can't ask for that because it's not for a school setting. That's not something that will enhance his ability to learn. So your IEP team in general is going to be the team that helps you to accommodate your child in school. And your doctor team is, again, the full life. So number one, go into the meeting understanding that you are the expert on your child. You are the exact parent that your child needs, and that you can overcome any obstacles that come your way. Number two, know the law. Now, this can be tricky if you don't have a background in it. So I thankfully have a background in education. When I started my college years, I started in special education. So I remember the different laws that we spoke about, because as special education teachers, we would have been responsible for communicating what that family could use to get what their child needed. So I am aware of 3 laws that I'm going to share, and there may be more, but these are the ones that I can remember and that I know are actually still being amended today. I actually just read something, and a lot of them state by state, but I just read something that there has been a recent amendment to one of those laws. So they are around, and they are acronyms. In education, we love acronyms. I think everything I learned had an acronym, but I'm going to put them aside of my head. So right here on the screen as I discuss them, so that you can know, and I will also drop them in the description below so that you can also look at them. You can have some easy, like Google, pick up the documents, and then you're ready to go. So the first act is IDEA. IDEA stands for Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. This one is going to only pertain to education, as it says in the name. So that's something that you can look up if you are getting ready to go into an IEP meeting. Or even after. You have 10 days after your IEP meeting to sign, yes, I agree, or no, I do not. And you can take those full 10 days. If you aren't comfortable with something that was discussed in the IEP, you have a right under the law to take those 10 days to discover and ask for help, to talk to your child's therapists if you feel comfortable with them, to talk to their pediatrician if you feel comfortable with them, and get as much information and as much evidence as you need in writing to help you say, no, I don't agree with this. This is something I'd like, and then set up another appointment. So you do not have to leave the IEP meeting having signed the paper. Okay, so IDEA. The second one also pertains to education and is FAPE, F-A-P-E. And that's every child has a right to free and appropriate public education. So FAPE is something you'd also like to know before you go to an IEP meeting. The last is, in general, when you go in the public places, they need to be ADA compliant. So ADA is Americans with Disabilities Act, and that one encompasses more than just the education. So if you are unable to get your child into a building or out of a building safely, they are not ADA compliant, and that's a law. They need to be ADA compliant. And there are ways for buildings to be ADA compliant, to have a wheelchair ramp, to have an elevator, to have a chairlift. So there are ways that someone can become ADA compliant. And I have had to bring up ADA in dealings with Asher's therapy because some of the policies of the school, not the therapists, the school where they are meeting, were not in compliance with that. And seeing as he's non-ambulatory, I did say, no, this is not okay. I sent an email, obviously a kind email, and I actually did send it to another friend of mine who has a child with special needs to kind of look over it and say, is this too harsh? Is this what I should be sending? And then I sent it after I had showed it to her, and she said, looks good. So that brings us to our third point. And that is exercise in a community. There are so many other people that are experiencing this, maybe not exactly the same way, but there are people that are there for you and could listen to you. And if you don't have someone like that, I also was thinking, as I was thinking of doing this video, I'm going to make sure that my email is in my about section on this channel, so that if you have a question or if you feel like you don't have anybody to talk to about this that understands, please reach out. I would love to share. I'm a NICU mama, I'm a special needs mama, and I'm a mama of many, and and a homeschooling mama. I'd love to chat and talk about how to work things out. And we are coming up on some big decisions that I'm still weighing pros and cons and praying and really trying to make the best decision I can. So that is number 3, phone a friend. Check in with a friend so if you don't have a friend in person, oftentimes there are online support groups. Also, there are online support groups supported through children's hospitals in your area. So if you aren't sure where to look, a good place to start would be your local children's hospital, because children with special needs are often seen at a hospital setting more often than children without special needs. So they have things in place often and that they can set up on the internet, on Facebook. I am a part of our local children's hospital Facebook group for parents of children with cerebral palsy. So they typically have things like that. They did at one point before COVID, unfortunately, once COVID hit, it stopped, but have a cerebral palsy clinic every year where you could be with many other parents facing the same things, talk to experts in the field, and they gave childcare for your child that was affected as well as their siblings. They had different things that you could go to learn about different aspects of it. Like one of them that I went to that really struck a chord and was wonderful for me was like a siblings group, talking about how siblings deal with having a child in their home with special needs. Anyway, so there's things like that on the internet. But again, I will make sure that my email address is in my about section, so that if you do feel like I don't have anybody, I don't know where to start, oh, my heart would be to help you, because I understand that feeling. And I had some really precious people in my life that just took my hand and walked me through it. So I would love to be that person for anyone that feels like that's not something they have. Collect expert testimony. Now, this sounds a little bit lawyer-esque, but you oftentimes, before you go into those things, now there is like a starting out period where you don't have really experts in your corner, but typically after your first like entrance exam almost, and when they've come and they've evaluated your child and have determined that your child needs services, you will have therapists. And those therapists will see your child at least once a week. For Asher, both of his therapists see him twice a week. So they are able, from a professional standpoint, to say, this is what will work for this child, this is what won't work for this child. Our situation, our physical therapist, we've struggled majorly with orthotics. Asher has really had some trouble with the orthotics that he's been given, and it's because they really did not listen the first time to the therapist. So they were made incorrectly and caused a lot of pain. So because we have this upcoming hospital visit, I made sure to ask both of his therapists, if there's anything that you feel pertinent to bring up, please let me know, or let me know of anything that you feel would be helpful to him. Anything that he could use assistively, anything that you think of, because they can see him through professional eyes and they see him enough times and understand a lot more about him than a doctor that sees him maybe twice a year, that they can really offer insight into the situation. And having a team behind you can also help with that, number one, with that feeling of confidence that you are the expert and that you have gathered as many experts and as many people that are on your team as you can. So if I know that that's coming up, will meet with each one of his therapists, whether it's a text message or a quick check with them when I'm picking up Asher or dropping him off, and say, is there anything that I should bring up? They typically know about the appointment as soon as I make it, and I ask them to kind of just be collecting data so that when I go, I can have all of that with me. Now, I would say, from my perspective as hot mess mom, I would put it on your phone in like a notes app, or even in like a Google Docs if you have Google Docs on your phone, because if I write it on a piece of paper, if I write it on a notebook, I'm not going to remember it. So I want to put it in my phone because I know I'll have my phone with me for other reasons, to be able to call Mike or to bring him in on any decision that seems too big to be making then. Anyway, I would suggest putting it on your phone because your phone typically comes with you and it's not one more thing you need to remember. Oftentimes on the day of the appointment or the day of the IEP, it is overwhelming. You're already kind of on edge emotionally. So to have as little that you need to remember or as little that you need to actually do that day, it's better. That way you can kind of clear your head and go forward knowing you're not rushing around trying to get things done last minute or get things together that need to be gotten together. And that brings us to our last point. Number 5, that you should have your clothes and your child's clothes picked out the night before. Get together meals for the rest of the family, meals that you can come home to. That would be the day for the crock pot or the instant pot that's like on delay start. That's the day to kind of get those things in motion, or the day for chicken nuggets and, tater tots. That is the day to push the easy button on everything else and try as you can to have it prepared in advance. And again, breathe. I would say too, to work in a little special extra treat for the child that is going to the hospital with you. I know for our IEPs where we live, a lot of them are done on Zoom. So get yourself a special chocolate or something you can do afterwards to kind of decompress. Have a friend that you tell, hey, I'm having this IEP today. Could I just call you afterwards to decompress? It is oftentimes very emotional, especially if you have to fight for things that you know your child needs and the district does not have the money or the means to give you. So it's always a good idea to have somebody kind of on standby. Like, I'm going to be calling, I might be in tears. I've had maybe 4 or 5 IEP meetings at this point. Before that, they were called individual family plans because depending on what age group you're in, it's a different program. So the individual family plans were not as hard because his therapists were there with me, and I felt like we were all in the same room. I felt supported. We talked about it beforehand, and they kind of were very pivotal in making sure that I was understanding what was going on. I did not feel uncomfortable. At this stage, there are other people that join in that I'm not familiar with. So anyway, the most recent ones are usually the more emotional ones for me because there are other parties that are a part of it because they're coming from the school district or the IU. And so we see a lot more people, a lot more experts, and it makes it very difficult emotionally. So just be ready for that, breathe. And if it's a great IEP meeting, hey, celebrate with the chocolate. But just to have something that you can have afterwards that kind of is like a reward for having gotten through what you needed to get through, and to breathe and take a minute afterwards to process it all. And again, you do not need to make any decisions the day of, whether it's a doctor or an IEP. With the medical team, if it's deciding about a surgery, it should be done sooner rather than later, just because those take a long time to get in. Usually in our area, at least it's 6 months if you want a surgery scheduled that's non-emergent, to be able to get that child in. So one of the things I'm talking about right now is we're considering surgery for Asher, and that's part of what this gate lab will do. But by the time he would get it, he's not going to be with either one of his therapists because he will have graduated that program. So it's one of those things. But breathe and give yourself the time that you need if you need it. And set reminders if you're not making the decision at the hospital to call them or to schedule it, or to use, oftentimes they have like a portal, an online portal where you can set up appointments that way. So I hope this was helpful. I'm going to just tag on to the end of this. The update today went fairly well. There was some grouchy voice on Mama's part, so I'm working on, we've gotten the no yell. It's getting better, but I need to also work on the edge on my voice that comes out sometimes when Mama is frustrated and she's had a day. So that's my update. Let me know in the comments below how you're doing. And also, if you are watching as a special needs mama, if you have any questions or anything you want to talk about, you could let me know below. Or even, like I said, I'm going to have my email in the about section. I'm going to make sure I update that so that it's there, so that if you feel like you have no one in this journey, I could be that person, and I'd love to be helpful in any way I can because of so many that have been helpful to me. All right, signing off now. Bye, friends. Have a great day. Day 6 of the challenge.